I'm Sherry, and today I want to share something deeply important with you. Something that's been stirring in my heart since I did something that years ago would have absolutely terrified me. This month, I shared my story of ritual abuse, mind control, and trafficking on a podcast, fully aware that it could bring backlash, but hopeful it could create change. What's happened since has pleasantly surprised me, and it's why I want to tell you about some of the most courageous people I've ever encountered. Before we dive in, I want to be clear about something. This conversation is about healing and raising awareness. It's about breaking the silence that has protected perpetrators for generations and creating spaces for survivors to reclaim their voices and their stories and their lives. This isn't sensationalism, it isn't conspiracy theory, but it is sacred work. I was a guest on We Are the People podcast with Jason Preston, where I shared my story about overcoming as a survivor of ritual abuse within a cultic Catholic family. For years, decades really, I carried these experiences in complete isolation. In the 90s, I was diagnosed with dissociative identities, and I started a nonprofit organization, and I did a lot of support groups and a national conference. And then came the satanic panic and a lot of misinformation out there that really did a lot of damage to survivors. I kind of thought that I was alone until 6 years ago in 2019, where I met a survivor that had actually overcome for 20 years. She was helping other survivors. But before that, I believed I was pretty much alone and that no one would understand the complexity of the religious trauma. And it was too hard to talk about cults and ritual abuse, especially. But I've been speaking my truth openly on YouTube for some time, and 3 years at the Healing Together conference. I've shared my story, and I've spoken at the Relentless Hope fundraiser and seminar, which happened the same day, well, the same couple days that I was in Utah, along with 3 other survivors, Asia, Ashley, and Marybeth. But there was something different about sharing on in the Relentless Hope fundraiser and on Jason Preston's podcast. These were places where we were shown safety and we were believed. And all of it showed me the power of what happens when survivors are given safe spaces to tell their stories. When I spoke my truth years ago, I know I would have expected questions and probably a lot of disbelief, but that didn't happen. Jason believes us. And I found something unexpected. Between the Relentless Hope fundraiser and the survivors that have been on Jason's podcast, I have found an incredible community of incredibly brave survivors who refuse to stay silent. I found a very inviting presence and safe space provided to those of us who have shared our story on We Are the People podcast. Jason and Alexia, they are amazing people. Alexia wasn't able to make it on the day that I did the podcast, but Relentless Hope, they're also doing what's desperately needed in this dark world. They're giving survivors of ritual abuse, mind control, and trafficking a platform to tell their stories with dignity and support. This work is fundamental, and it's about healing, it's about awareness, it's about breaking the silence. It's about educating people that these crimes are not just isolated incidents and they're not conspiracy theories. They are real people, and it has happened to me, and it's happened to thousands of others. These are documented stories, and this is trauma that has been destroying lives for generations. While much of the survivor stories on Jason's podcast have been about what's happening within the LDS church there in Utah, my story had to do with coming out of the Catholic Church. Even though we have different religions, the patterns are tragically and heartbreakingly similar. What we see across all of the institutions that use religious authority to silence their victims is the systematic nature of the abuse and the way these crimes are hidden behind those sacred walls. What Jason and Alexia understand, and what's so crucial for people to grasp, is that this is organized, it's systematic abuse, and it's been happening through multiple generations, protected by these institutions that prioritize greed, corruption, and reputation over the safety and protection of children. Trafficking alone is a multi-million-dollar business, and they're profiting off of children's innocent lives. Children should never be for sale. I want to take a little time here to honor the extraordinary survivors who have shared their stories on this podcast and at the Relentless Hope fundraiser, because their courage deserves deep recognition. It takes a lot to push past conditioning and fear and programming. And they're willing to take those risks, like I am, to have increased healing, because a lot of healing comes once we overcome their threats. And each person represents not just survival, but transformation and reclaiming a life that was meant to be destroyed. And it represents, their story represents the hope that there is. Let me tell you a little bit about Marybeth. Her story, I have a link in the description, is I Have a Name, Rescuing Marybeth. Her story is a profound declaration of identity reclaimed. The title itself is revolutionary, asserting that she is not a number. She has a name. She is not just a victim or a survivor, but a human being. She matters. Her story matters, and she has inherent worth like we all do. Her journey from being rescued to rescuing herself speaks to the power of survivors taking control of their own life. Marybeth's story is about healing through and raising awareness about the humanity of every person. Kate Talley's story, and the link is down below in the description, Ritual Abuse and Unbreakable Courage, demonstrates another remarkable example of the human spirit. Despite facing the systematic attempts to break her will and destroy her sense of self, she discovered an inner strength that no amount of trauma can touch. Her courage isn't just about surviving, just like Marybeth. It's about thriving and helping others to do the same. Kate's story truly raises awareness, as all of our stories do, about the resilience that we have, and showing that healing is possible even after unthinkable trauma. Then there's Ashley, whose courage in sharing her story of ritual abuse, both along and beside her husband Jesse in The Cost of Courage, shows us, and that's linked in the description too, shows us the power of solidarity among survivors. When Ashley and Jesse broke their silence together, they demonstrated that healing is not a solitary journey done alone. They show that speaking truth together can multiply courage and create support systems so that others can model what they're showing and help survivors withstand that inevitable pushback that they both have had. Their stories raise awareness about the importance of community in healing and the strength that comes from doing that healing together and connecting with other survivors. I also want to honor Asia. She courageously shared her story at the Relentless Hope event. Her willingness to speak publicly alongside all of us there that night demonstrates the incredible power that survivors have when we stand together. Our courage, her courage in that moment, on that stage, speaking to a room of people about our experiences, shows the healing that comes from breaking the silence and finding out that awful things didn't happen to people that we love or care about. And when we support each other as we tell our stories and our truth, then our stories have more impact and we become empowered. And then there's my own story, and I've linked that below too, from ritual abuse to healing through faith. My story is both terrifying and liberating. My journey shows that even after the most sacred parts of our lives, faith, trust, innocence, are weaponized against us, we can reclaim our relationship with God. My story raises awareness that healing through faith after religious, ritual abuse and trauma and mind control isn't just possible, it became and can be a profound source of strength and purpose. And I wrote a book called Women of Purpose, Shared Identity, Unique Calling. And that is going to be published on Amazon this year, probably June or July 2025. And that book shows the purpose that God gave me. And I don't tell a lot about my story in that book. It's a Bible study, and I take people through the shared purpose that we all have as believers, and then which is to know God through Jesus Christ and to make him known through discipleship. And then I help people by taking them through the spiritual gifts tests and finding out their unique calling and the giftings and talents that God has put in them so that they can identify their purpose and their calling. Each of us face an impossible choice: stay silent and safe, or speak truth and risk everything. I am so proud of each of us that we did not stay silent. We spoke our truths, and we did risk it all. We risked relationships, we risked reputation, and even personal safety. We all chose truth. And because we did, every survivor listening knows they're not alone. You're not crazy. What happened to you has a name and a community of people who truly understand. I need to be honest with you about something. Some of these survivors have faced some serious backlash for speaking truth. That's the reality of challenging powerful systems. Some have lost family relationships, faced legal threats, been subjected to harassment campaigns designed to silence them, but they are okay. And they are getting through all of that. And that's just proof that these groups want to silence us. But here's what's happening as a result of their courage. And this is why this work of healing and raising awareness is so important. The awareness of these things is growing People are waking up to the reality that ritual abuse, mind control, and trafficking is not a conspiracy theory. It's a documented form of systemic, multi-generational trauma that tries to destroy lives and has been covered up for far too long. Law enforcement is beginning to take these crimes more seriously, although there are people in that law enforcement that are put there by these groups that, of course, are not taking these things seriously. But for the most part, people are waking up to this. Mental health professionals are getting better training on how to support survivors. I just started working on a training course that I will be putting out there for therapists, clinicians, clergy, law enforcement, called Project Justice. And I have plans on launching that probably in 2026. Most importantly, survivors are finding the courage to break the silence. They have been silenced for too long. This is about individual healing. That's really important, but it's also about changing the system through awareness, creating spaces for healing. Every survivor who speaks up makes it harder for these networks of abuse to continue operating in the darkness. Every story told creates a crack in that wall of silence that has protected perpetrators for too many generations. We're not just healing from our past, we're actively working to prevent our children, our grandchildren, and our future children from experiencing what we survived. That's the power of our voice. When they're amplified and together we arise and work to bring awareness. If you're listening to this and something resonates with your own experience, whether it's religious or spiritual abuse, ritual abuse, mind control, trafficking, I want you to know that your story matters. You matter. Your voice has power, and there are people ready to listen without judgment. This work is about creating pathways to healing and awareness so that others don't have to suffer in silence like we did. If you're a survivor ready to share your story, you could be a guest blog writer on my blog or be a guest on my podcast, Arise and Shine. And you can go to Arise and Shine afterabuse.com and connect with me there. Or I encourage you to reach out to We Are the People podcast and contact Jason and Alexia at abuse@wearethepeople.org. They understand the immense courage it takes to break the silence. They know how to create a safe space for the conversations focused on healing and awareness. And they'll honor your truth with the respect it deserves. I would love to share and hear your story on my blogger podcast. You can participate anonymously, use your first name, or even the name of one of your parts. The focus is always on what you need, your healing, what feels safe for you. And also, maybe you're not ready to go public or share your story. That's completely okay too. Let me help you to find your voice just by connecting with you in the community of survivors and advocates who understand. That can be a step in your healing journey. Here's what I've learned through all of this. Silence protects the abusers and systems that hurt us and allows trafficking to flourish. But our voices have the power to tear those systems down, and we become the threat that they never counted on. And then we can build something better in its place. Healing from abuse is so hard and takes such a lot of effort to function and do the work it takes to recover. But I have identified as an overcomer, and I believe that all of us are warriors for truth, protectors of future generations, and living proof that this happens. Living proof that healing is possible and there is hope even after the worst trauma imaginable. Through my commitment to being a voice for the voiceless and speaking out for those who can't yet speak for themselves, my hope is that we change the world for every survivor who comes after us. Your story could be the one that helps another survivor realize they're not alone. Your voice could be the one that finally brings justice. But even if all you do is heal, that's okay. You are important. Don't underestimate the power of healing. Don't underestimate the power of your truth. Even if one person is the only person you tell your story to, your truth, when it's shared, can bring such healing in community with someone else. The work that Jason and Alexia and Relentless Hope are doing, and the courage of survivors like Asia, Marybeth, Kate, Ashley, and the growing movement of survivors who refuse to stay silent, it's all exciting and ensures that what happened to us stops or will be reduced as far as what is happening to others. Thank you for listening. This is Sherry at Arise and Shine. Until next time, keep rising, keep shining, keep healing, and keep shining your light in the dark world. God bless you.